Okay, it's 7:05, and I'm calling the meeting, the San Leandro City Council to order. Today is Monday, December 8th. At this point in time, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Aguilar.
Present.
Councilmember Azevedo.
Present.
Councilmember Bolt.
Here.
Councilmember Simon.
Present.
Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Bowen.
Present.
And Mayor Gonzalez.
Present. The City of San Leandro conducts orderly meetings to fulfill its mandate. Discriminatory statements of conduct that would potentially violate the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964 and or the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, California Penal Code sections 403 or 415 are per se disruptive to a meeting and will not be tolerated here. Please see the City Council Handbook and City Council Meeting Rules of Decorum for more information. Madam Clerk, your announcement.
If you would like to make a public comment during the meeting, you can do so in person or via Zoom. If you are present at the meeting, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the city clerk before the item is presented. If you wish to participate in public comment via Zoom, you can use the raise your hand tool when the item is called. During the public comment session, speakers will be invited to speak and will have a set time to share their comments. A countdown timer will appear for their convenience, and when the time is up, the microphone will be muted. All raised hands outside of public comment will be lowered to avoid confusion. Once public comment is opened, hands may be raised to speak.
So for item number 3, was there any reportable action taken at closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. No reportable actions were taken in closed session, but direction was provided to staff.
Thank you. So for our consent calendar, are there any amendments to our consent calendar? Okay, Councilmember Viveros Walton, please.
I'd like to move the consent calendar.
And Councilmember Azevedo.
I would like to second it.
Okay. So we do have a motion from Councilmember Viveros Walton with a second from Councilmember Azevedo to move our consent calendar in its entirety forward. But do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor, we did not receive any comment cards. There is one hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll close public comment in person and proceed online.
Lucas, you're the first speaker.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you, Council, for taking my comment this evening. I see that the consent calendar, one of the items is about the travel budget and some of the adjustments that are happening as a result of past disciplinary actions, and will likely there'll be some adjustments, hopefully as a result of the ongoing disciplinary actions before the Council. I would like to potentially suggest to the Council that any travel money spent that is improperly spent be reimbursed. I don't think that the Council should be paying for trips to other countries that result in criminal indictments, that the citizens should pay for that. I don't think that the people who get to travel to a foreign country do some corrupt deals, potentially, allegedly, who knows, the jury will decide. But if it is found that there was impropriety in some of these trips that the Council paid for, that the people paid for, I would ask that one of the consequences of that is that whoever broke the law on an official business trip reimburse the city and the people all of the funds for that trip. I think this should be written into the handbook. I think this should be a part of the official conduct policy, and I don't like seeing the Council paying for trips that result in criminal charges. Thank you for taking my comment this evening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Douglas Spalding.
There's the button. Thank you very much. Good evening, council members. I don't disagree with the previous speaker, but like they say, innocent until proven guilty. would not want to presume anything before a jury verdict. I wanted to speak to the item on board and commission vacancies. To point out a couple of things that occur to me. One is that there is a person appointed as an at-large member to the Community Police Review Board who practically never goes. I think this person has missed several meetings in a row. I'm not quite sure what the exact ruling is, but my general sense is that if somebody is appointed to be serve on a board or commission and they don't follow through, for whatever reasons, then replace them so that somebody is representing our city. The other thing I noticed is on the Rec and Parks Board that there is a representative from the school district, San Leandro School District, but there is not one from the San Lorenzo Unified School District, and it would make sense to me to add someone. I'm not sure that Doug Marr wants to add another night to his month, but perhaps they can come up with somebody to help us out from over there. And I think that was all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor, that concludes all of the raised hands on.
So we will close public comment. Thank you. And at this point in time, we come back to council. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, please vote on this item.
All votes are in, and the motion passes unanimously.
At this point in time, we go to item 5A. This involves a resolution, a potential adoption of resolution to approve and authorize the city manager to execute amendment number 2 with respect to the East Bay SPCA, excuse me. And I do believe that we have received all in chambers an updated presentation. Just a quick question for city manager. Will this be shared online in some way?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members and community members. Yes, we have provided an updated presentation to council in chambers. We are having an issue with the Legistar system, which is a system that we upload files for council meetings. And so we're asking that everyone pay attention to the presentation that Captain Khan will be giving this evening. And once we are able to deal with our technical issues, hopefully tomorrow, we will update the file with the new staff report and presentation.
Thank you. And is it fair to assume, City Attorney, that based on the changes that have been made, that they are minor, administrative, ministerial in nature, and we may proceed with this item?
Yes, you may proceed with this item. It is properly agendized, and staff will present updates to the information in the item.
Perfect. Thank you very much. With that, we will go to Captain Khan, if you would please proceed. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, Madam City Manager, and City Attorney Pia Rhoda. As the mayor said, I'm Captain Ali Khan. I'm here for the presentation of the San Luis Police Department Animal Control Services with East Bay SPCA. It's a contract extension. Just a bit of a background. The San Luis Police Department has relied on East Bay SPCA for animal shelter services since 2021 after agreement with VCA Llewellyn Animal Hospital and our contract with the city of Fremont had ended. Prior to Fremont, we had contract with the city of Hayward and the county of Alameda for animal sheltering services. On July 21st of this year, our council approved a 6-month contract extension with SPCA while staff evaluated alternate service providers. And this is because of the extreme cost. The police department is well aware that there are 2 major budget items, SPCA being one of the largest ones. Staff conducted a multi-county survey, which began in March of this year, and found that due to capacity limitations or staffing constraints in Alameda and Contra Costa counties, East Bay SPCA was the only viable service provider. On July 14th of this year, Chief Averitt briefed the council on the cost of a 6-month contract and advised that a new long-term contract agreement would be presented later for approval. On analysis, staff has researched staff research has concluded in September of this year and showed that alternatives to SPCA would increase costs and reduce efficiency by requiring animal control officers to visit multiple service providers, such as medical care, before an animal could be sheltered. At the end of September, all viable alternative options have been thoroughly evaluated and exhausted. Of note and of importance is related to cost. The San Leandro Municipal Code currently requires that SPCA accept and therefore impound animals found loose in public areas, along with allowing community members to drop off stray at no cost. These requirements have increased city expenditure for intake and boarding of animals. This slide shows monthly statistics, activity of intake for the last 4 reportable months from July to October. On average, we have had an intake of 34 animals per month, accounting for an average of 16 intakes by animal control officers and 14 that were brought in by public. This is the total count for animal control stats up to October. Most dogs were called in as strays, and most cats were brought in for minor injuries. The attached status shows activity shelter through October. Of note, animal control officers had 1,972 calls for service related to animals, which, as you can see, can be a direct effect on how much the shelter is receiving intakes and how busy they potentially could be. This slide shows the total amount by fiscal year when we first started our contract with East Bay SPCA. For fiscal year 26 and 27, it is anticipated it'll cost the city $398,500. It also reflects the actuals that are paid for fiscal year 24 and 25, increases due to the intake exceeding 500 or 400 animals cost the city additional funds. So here's what the financial impact is. For fiscal year 2026, we will be fully funded through the adopted budget appropriation in the amount of $217,500. And additionally, salary savings in the amount of $181,000 for a total contract amount of $398,000 as showed in the prior slide. For fiscal year 2027, is partially funded through adopted budget appropriation in the amount of $217,500 and will require an additional appropriation in the amount of $181,000 for a total contract amount, again, for $398,000. The additional budget appropriation will be presented and considered during the mid-cycle update process. So why am I here? This is our recommendation and the police department's ask. The City Council adopt a resolution to approve and authorize our city manager to execute amendment number 2 of the contract, an agreement with East Bay SPCA by extending the term of the agreement for an additional 18 months through June 30th of 2027, and authorize an increase in the agreement for an additional $579,000, but not to exceed $1,517,000. So the ask here is for an extension of the contract. The funds have been secured. I'll open it up to any questions, but if there are any technical questions, I do have our animal control supervisor at Bell here.
Okay, so at this point in time, we will take questions from council for clarification. We'll then go to public comment and then come back for discussion and/or motions, beginning with Councilmember Azevedo.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I have a couple questions on these statistics. It says dog versus people, 25, but there was no animal bites. So what does that mean, dog versus people? Just that somebody was scared to go somewhere, so they called the animal control and to get the animal picked up, the dog picked up? Or
And this is exactly why I have my right-hand person who's going to be at Bell answering those
I'm
questions.
just wondering what that meant, dog versus people.
Thank you for the question. The dog versus people are dog attacks versus people.
So
They're dog attacks, but they're not bites?
No, they're bites.
Oh, because it says animal bites, and it doesn't have.
Yeah, so the
any-
animal bites is dog versus any other animal, or cats versus any
okay,
other
that,
animals.
okay.
So we have to separate them. So when we send our statistics to the county health department, we have to.
So when it says dog versus people, that means how many times a person got bitten by a dog?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, why do we quarantine animals at home? Do they have rabies or what, and what animals are we talking about we quarantine at home?
So
Dogs
with
and
the
cats?
quarantine of the animals, it's a quarantine set by the state that if they are up to date on the current rabies vaccine, they can be quarantined at home under the watchful eye of the parents or the dog owners.
Okay, why? I mean, why do we, they got bit by like a squirrel or bit by something?
So we need to make sure that they don't have any neurological diseases.
Okay,
'cause
you
sometimes-
quarantine if you find them or what's the?
Yes, for when we
Okay,
find
okay,
them. If we know the dog that did the bites, that's when we have to.
Oh, okay, so that has to do with bites then?
Right,
quarantine.
yes.
Okay. So that's all related to that then, okay.
Yes, and we try to keep them at home so, accidents happen. It's not the dog's fault, but if they are not currently vaccinated or we can't make sure that the dog is secure at home, then we'll quarantine them at the shelter.
Oh, okay. And then some of the statistics where it says ACO, that means that's when you guys picked up the animals and
Yes,
then
sir.
Publix when the public brings it in?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that just seems like a really low number for felines because I get a lot of cat complaints.
Right. But
You just picked up one cat in all of October? I mean, 3 cats?
that we brought in because we're trying not to bring in cats. There's no leash law for cats in San Leandro. So some people have outdoor cats, so we don't want to have to catnap the animals from the people.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll go to Councilmember Simon next.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you for the
I'm sorry,
presentation.
I called out the wrong name. I punched a different name, but please proceed.
Okay. As far as the cats go, does it refresh my memory? Is there a program at the city for neutering cats to reduce the number of cats that we have to deal with?
Currently, the city does not offer a program. The East Bay SPCA does offer low-cost spay and neutering for San Leandro residents for feral and stray cats.
Okay, you said it's low cost?
Low cost. I believe it's $40 or $50 per animal.
Okay. And when you get cats and you take them, or dogs, to the SPCA, what happens to them once they go there?
So once they go there, they're immediately, there's an intake done on the animal to make sure it's healthy, make sure it has all the shots necessary to house. There are set up for a quarantine, or not a quarantine, a stray hold, which is usually a 5-day stray hold. Once the stray hold is done, they're going to have a behavioral assessment with the behavioral specialist to make sure that the dog or cat is adoptable. Once they are deemed adoptable, then they go through the rabies shots and the spay and neuter, and then they'll be put up for adoption.
Okay, and if they're not deemed adoptable?
Then at first, if they're not deemed adoptable, they'll go to the behavioral specialist. They have an office with kennels there. They are treated there the best that they possibly can. And usually, for the most part, they are eventually adoptable. Right now, the shelter has, I believe, a 93% live release rate with all the animals that we bring in.
You said 93%, what?
Live release rate. So all the animals, 93% of all the animals that we bring there leave the shelter alive, whether it goes to foster or adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Councilmember Aguilar next.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. My question is with regards to the total amount paid to the East Bay SPCA. The $398,500 what is that? Is that just a flat fee, or does that entail like any type of itemization as to where those funds are applied to?
So that is a flat fee up to 500 animals. And we did increase that from 400 because there is, for every 50 animals that you go over, there is a pretty substantial amount that is built. So we negotiated that into the contract. However, So since we learned that this is a significant ask for the city, we have substantially changed our protocol for animal control officers, and they're heavy into reunification, and they will exhaust every option that they have before they actually bring an animal to SPCA.
Gotcha. Thank you. Well, that's my question.
Thank you. Councilmember Bolt, please.
Yes, I have two comments. One, education is real, right? So I had a call from a constituent and they were really upset with me that they couldn't just take their animal to the SPCA. And I was interested, not their animal, an animal stray. And I was like, what do you mean you can't? And they said, well, because it comes from the city of San Leandro, it has to go to the animal control first. And what? Like, let them do it. Why waste time? But I get why now, because we have to pay every time someone shows up with an animal, whether they were from our city or not, but they claim they were. That's our budget. So I want to say thank you. Once I learned, I was like, oh, well, this is why, and it makes complete sense. So thank you for that. Second, the beginning of this year, I want to thank you because I don't know if you remember, but out here in front of the school, a cat had gotten run over. It was right. I was picking my niece up and you were busy. I could tell on the phone. And I used the only time I've ever used is Councilmember Bolt. Let me see what it'll do. You showed up, you picked that cat up and there was no problems. And you did it really with humanity too. It wasn't like there was a big to do about it, but it just felt safe. So I want to say thank you for that publicly because it made a difference. None of the kids came out and saw that. So thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we're going to go to public comment on this item.
Mayor, we have not received any comment cards. However, there are 2 hands raised on Zoom.
Please, so we'll close public comment in person and we'll open public comment online.
The first speaker is Douglas Spalding.
Thank you very much. It seems whenever I find myself canvassing for candidates or issues or whatever, I invariably run into neighbors who are very upset about the way that stray animals are dealt with. Often it's around cats, and there are a lot of allegations that have been made about what happens to the cat that gets picked up, which I think most of which I've been able to kind of wade through and determine it's not really true. But I am scratching my head a little bit about the numbers. I really appreciate the emphasis on reunification. Sounds like the de-escalation of animal control. So, it really seems preferable. And that would be both an internal and external educational piece. Like, I don't think many people in the city know that that's the approach and sort of how to go about it. But you're saying that, okay, we were budgeted at 400 animals. We go over by 100. That's a 25% increase. Okay, it makes sense. We have to pay a little bit more. But what you're asking for, the additional $181,000 for both fiscal years 2026 and 2027, is more than an 80% increase over what was budgeted. And I just can't quite understand what are we getting for that? Is that due to some inflationary pressure in the animal control world, or is that the price of having too many animals go, or are we getting more services, more bang for our buck? It doesn't quite compute for me. Thank you.
The next speaker is Susan Erb.
Thank you. I appreciate the SPCA, but I noticed that there's a complete lack of support for the community members who are doing so much work, spending so much of their own money, dealing with particularly the feral cat population. I would like to see a more balanced approach. Consider, as Hayward has had contracts with the Animal Fix Clinic, which does an excellent job. It just doesn't seem right to me to keep spending more and more for the SPCA and not doing any support at all for the community that is working so hard at dealing with these animals. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lucas.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking another one of my comments this evening, Mayor and Council. Page 19 of the consulting services agreement, the current one, has a beautiful table in purple that says that our current contract is on a base of 400 animals per year. There's a set fixed cost, and then after 401 animals to 451, 451 to 500, 500 to 600, there are additional charges and a total contract cost. Please take a look at page 19 of the current consulting services agreement. At 500 animals and above, it's an extra $22,000, $27,000 cost, maybe $50,000 according to, depending on how these schedules are read. The new agreement that you're considering signing and approving today on page 2 does something very important. It lowers the base, the contracted base, to 250 animals. And now, before there were $25,000 extra charge at 400 animals. Now there's a $40,000 charge at 251 animals, which we know we already exceeded this year if we're pulling in 36 animals every month. And there's an additional $35,000 charge from 326 animals to 400. So not only is this contract getting more expensive, it's also lowering the threshold at which there are additional charges from 400 animals down to 250 animals, which we've already exceeded. Who's getting all this money? What are we getting for all of this extra money? Why can't this be negotiated openly and transparently and in a reasonable way where these schedules make no sense? Please take better care of our money. Thank you, Council, for taking my comment.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. To that last public commenter, I heard something that maybe I did not hear correctly, but there appears to have been some negotiation about the stair step. I didn't see a slide on the stair step. And instead of looking at my tiny phone, I figured, okay, we've got the folks here, talk to us about the change in the pricing.
Right, again, that 250 that the caller was actually talking about is a 6-month contract extension. So if you add those 2 6 months together, it does bring it up to that 500. And again, we negotiated that 500 because historically we were looking to see, and the numbers continued to go up beyond what our threshold of 400 was. And if you violate the 400 threshold, you certainly have to pay for it. And part of this review process also included, again, I want to be absolutely clear, we know what the substantial cost and the ask is to have this contract. And so when we actually took a look at it, we again changed some of the format of how our animal control officers were responding. And during this research, as Councilmember Bolt has mentioned, one of the things that we learned was that there wasn't a checks and balance occurring as far as intakes. And prior to this change, there was a substantially higher intake from the public. And so we've required this requirement where they have to contact our animal control officers to give them a little bit more background. And sometimes it's because they were found outside of the city limits.
The other element of the question that caught my attention was just the sheer increase. Approximately speaking, it used to be $200,000 a year, and it has gone to $400,000 a year in terms of approximately what we're appropriating, and that's been over about a 5-year period. So that's a big rate of inflation. What do we know about why it has become so much more expensive?
I'll have Ed give you the specifics on the why, but I'll give you a bit of context behind that. As we're looking at other service providers, we learned that a neighboring East Bay agency signed a contract with SPCA. Smaller cities, smaller call volume, but significantly more money than in their contract than what we are paying. So I'm confident based on the negotiation process, even though it does on paper absolutely look like there is an increase if we compare it to another city that does have a similar contract. They're driving from the valley up here, and so it's far less convenient for them, and they are paying dollar for dollar more than what we are. And as far as how much and what's changed, maybe Ed can kind of give you a comprehensive review of what they provide and why they're unique.
Thank you. So, in my opinion, the numbers have got larger. A lot to do with COVID. A lot of people were stay at home, working from home. They want to get companions. Well, after COVID was done, they need to go back to work. They didn't have time for their animals. So a lot of animals were dumped. A lot of were strays, not reclaimed, and a lot of surrenders. So based off of that, we changed the policy where we're no longer accepting surrenders from the citizens. They have to go through the East Bay SPCA. They have to meet certain requirements. So we're not going to be getting all these dogs that were neglected just dumped on us. That follow the proper protocol. So we're not going to get the numbers higher. And also what we forgot to put in the slide, the SPCA has taken about 300 to 400 neonatal cats or kittens. That is not counted against our contract. These are all kittens that have to go to fosters immediately to be hand fed every couple hours. And it's not being counted against us. So if we are forced to go to another route with another shelter, those are numbers that will increase drastically.
Thank you. Do we have other questions or comments on this item prior to? Okay, Councilmember Simon.
Yes, thank you. I have a question, kind of a follow-up to one of the public commenters about the feral cats. And I heard you mentioned it's low cost, $40 per cat. I'm curious, because I do know there's a lot of homeowners that are footing the bill for this themselves. And is there any way to negotiate with SPCA to get a better rate to help our homeowners?
So I looked into that. I did a big memo to our command staff regarding the feral cats because it's obviously a problem within the city. The problem is finding a vet that can do high volume spay and neuters. A lot of the vets now, they only could do it. They're used to doing pets, so they're not doing the high volume of 40 to 50 animals a day. We can rent the SPCA with the doctors and everything for about $5,000 a round. That would handle about 40 to 50 cats, and that price will still equal about $40 to $50 a cat. We have looked into clinics that would do spay and neuter. The only one that I found within our area is in Stockton, and they would only handle 20 cats a day. For that to happen, we would have to trap the cats the night before, have an animal control officer take them to Stockton, sit for the spay and neuter, and then return that night to pick up the animals. So I haven't found a local vet that can accommodate the high number that we have.
Okay. Are there any state grants out there that help with this feral cat situation?
A lot of them won't help us since we don't have our own shelter. But the SPCA does apply for any kind of grants associated with it, and that's how they can provide the low-income one for our residents.
Okay. And I did want to just say nice job by your department, and I did want to give a shout out to Jessica from your department, and I was involved with an animal rescue of a dog that got loose on the Welling Boulevard, cars going by 50 miles per hour around this dog. Mm-hmm. And she came out quickly. Your dispatcher, Norma, police also was excellent. And how you said they try to find the owner rather than just take it in. Jessica even went out her way and drove the neighborhood. And the owner was looking for the dog, and she was able to reunite the dog. So exactly what you were saying happened. And I just wanted to give a shout out to those two staff. They did a nice job.
Thank you very much.
Seeing no other questions or comments, do I have a motion? Councilmember Aguilar.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move item 5A.
Councilmember Simon.
I'll second.
So I've got a motion by Councilmember Aguilar with a second from Councilmember Simon. Seeing no further discussion, please vote.
Councilmember Simon, thank you. All votes are in. The motion passes unanimously.
So for item number 5B, we've got discussion and possible action to schedule a disciplinary hearing for Councilmembers Aguilar and Councilmember Simon. So here to introduce the item, we have City Attorney Rich Pierotta.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to point out in the staff report for this item that the information related to, thank you, what occurred at the November 3rd council meeting, regular council meeting, contained an action that was not properly agendized, and that the entire motion, and by that, because it was not properly agendized, the action, the entire motion was rendered null and void under Robert's Rules of Order, which the council follows. So to correct that issue, the agenda item here before the council this evening is for the council to discuss and decide whether and how to move forward under San Leandro Administrative Code, Section 1.13.115, pursuant to Vice Mayor Bowen's request for discipline. I'm available to answer any questions.
So do we have any questions for City Attorney? And if not, I'll go to public comment on this item. Councilmember Simon.
Yes, I have a question. In the discipline policy you just handed out, under page 4, it lists A through D of one or more of the combination of the items that could be considered. Can it be a alternate item than listed here if the council comes up and agrees to one? Or does it have to be one of these A through D under that subsection 1115?
So under the policy, these are what the council has decided discipline short of censure may be. Certainly, a motion by a council member is something that the council could consider, but as far as what a discipline short of censure could be, the council has decided this is the list, and it's a finite list. Certainly, a motion could be made about what action or motion or what action the council would like to take as to a discipline short of censure. It's up to the council to decide.
Okay, so that at that time, when this is occurring, that motion could be made for something, an alternate to A through D.
If that's what the council considers as a discipline short of censure, yeah, that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This question is for City Attorney. For the disciplinary hearing and the information grounds for the discipline, what is the process that we have to be able to, two questions. One, can you clarify why we must have this deliberation in open session publicly? And two, because we are having this deliberation publicly, how can we, or what is the process for speaking to the evidence in the case for the discipline?
So under the policy and under common law, which is case law, all requests, all disciplinary actions against public officials by the body itself must be in open session. There's no valid reason under the Brown Act that exists for them to be in closed session. And there's case law that establishes the same, including any censure of a council member. As for the facts or the presentation of the facts, the council can take what was presented by in the discipline request and could take notice in any subsequent resolution that the facts are as they were stated by the council member. They can authorize a further investigation or inquiry into what occurred, or I think that's it as far as what are the facts. You can either authorize an investigation, rely upon an investigation, or take notice as a council that we will rely upon what was provided in the discipline policy, in the discipline request.
And in this particular discipline process, because it relates to the HR complaint that I filed in January, the council members who were able to do so authorized an investigation into sustaining the facts of the claim. And now that we have that, what is the process to use the facts that have been authorized in an investigation to proceed with the hearing?
So the investigation of that complaint is an attorney-client privileged document. And that's a separate action that the council must take in order to release or make public the facts established by the investigation report.
And so as to not potentially make the same clerical error as the first time, what needs to happen to be able to use the facts as grounds for the discipline hearing, for the council to be able to deliberate on it?
Well, the council would have to decide as a body to add to a future agenda the discussion of the waiver of the attorney-client privilege as to that report.
And is that something that would need to happen tonight, and also to schedule the discipline hearing concurrently?
So the council could vote, take action to put an item on a future agenda. Yes. Tonight, the agenda item is allowed for the council to discuss what disciplinary actions under 1.13.115 they'd like to schedule for that discussion. Discussion on discipline short of censure or to advance censure forward.
Okay. And just so I am clear, Councilmember Simon's questions around options A through D, you mentioned that per our policy, those potential actions are finite.
Those A, B, C, and D are established by the council under this policy as discipline short of censure.
Okay. And to clarify, for censure action, is censure action the only way that this council could require a fellow council member who has violated city policy to attend trainings, or where we state direct to be corrected, to subject them to correct the results of the behavior that violated the city policy? That is the only way, is to go through the censure process.
In order to require, as a condition of removing a privilege that a council member has. So for example, if the privilege of travel on for city business or on city budget, in order to qualify to receive that privilege back, you must attend training as a condition, then yes, censure is the proper procedure because you're actually taking a privilege away from an individual on the council.
Why does training have to be preceded by the removal of a privilege?
Well, what would be, I think the corollary to that, or the opposite, is that what is the condition that if they don't complete, you can urge training, and they could just complete it or not, but in order to receive back something that had been removed from them as a condition that attend training, that requires some sort of due process action.
I see. So it's not that it is to be able to give some consequence or weight as a requirement to a training. So if a council member violates a policy, whatever that policy is, and the council says we need to course correct this behavior and require a training, if you don't complete the training, then some privilege could be taken away. But it does not necessarily mean that a privilege is taken away unless, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just a matter of accountability.
Correct.
Okay. It feels like Groundhog's Day from November 3rd. It is now obviously December 8th. So originally December 8th was going to be the day that we were going to do the discipline hearing. And I know that I'm over my 5 minutes, but I do just want to talk about two things. One, this process has been incredibly convoluted, and I understand it to be so because we are doing this for the first time, and it is a new process. And so I can acknowledge and appreciate our learnings through that, and I hope that we can clean it up going forward, and obviously hope that we don't have to continue to do this process at all, ideally. I would like for us to be able to, I would like to move for us to be able to schedule the disciplinary hearing. That's the first motion knowing that rent stabilization is coming up on December 15th, which is also going to be a heavy and long meeting, I think, to be able to do it at the next meeting after that, so that staff can spend the time that they need to on that policy decision that we have to make. That's the first motion that I would like to make. So the January.
If I can take some public comment on this item.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to you for a motion, but yes, I will come back to you for the motion. I did want to clarify because you had asked some questions and I want to dig into them a little bit because I don't see any others in queue, but I think you had already done, so I'm going to go very quickly. On the topic of A through D or something else, the policy says A through D. It doesn't say or something else. Are you simply saying that we could amend our policy? Is that what you're saying? Or that the flexibility is there without an amendment?
The flexibility is there without the amendment in that A through D, the council has already determined is discipline short of censure. If there is another discipline and this is again, discipline short of censure that would not involve the removal or taking away of any privileges to a council member.
Thank you. Thank you. So the other place that I just wanted to follow up, because I know that Council or Vice Mayor Bowman really dug into this a little bit, and I just want to make sure that we're absolutely clear. We could, for example, say that it is the will of this council by resolution that a council member must attend training outside of censure. We could do that, but the problem that you foresee is enforceability. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I had. Councilmember Simon, question, or Councilmember Simon, you have a question? Yes?
You clarified the first one, that the flexibility is there. So I got that. The other question is for training. And I guess you said the concern was enforcement. But if the council members agreed to do it, then there would be no issues.
Okay, I think
Got it.
there's a comment, not a question. Any more questions? Councilmember Voters-Walton.
Thank you. I have a question regarding whether we have to, the motion should be for each individual council member for a disciplinary hearing, or I guess my concern would be that at this point, the item is agendized as an and. So do we have to make a motion to do each one individually and then say, schedule a disciplinary hearing for Councilmember X on consideration of discipline short of censure, and then another motion? I just don't want to be back on a parliamentarian issue.
Going to city attorney on that.
So if the council wanted to schedule both disciplinary hearings, make a motion that it would be on the same date for both, the council could certainly separate them and bifurcate them. So it would
That's my
take two
only
motions.
Seeing no other questions, I would like to take public comment on this item before coming back for deliberation.
Mayor, we have 2 comment cards from in the room, and there are presently 6 hands raised on Zoom.
Please proceed in person.
The first speaker is Sarah Bailey, followed by Leo T. West.
Good evening. You have not shown us any part of the investigative report into Vice Mayor Bowen's complaint against Councilmember Simon and Aguilar for harassment, intimidation, and gender bias. Judging by how hard it has been for you to share the report, it must be damning. I don't know if you realize how crazy-making your behavior has been. If the investigation substantiates Vice Mayor Bowen's claims, then all of you have either participated in or witnessed attempts by Councilmember Simon and Aguilar to silence her voice. Yet month after month and week after week have gone by while you silence her voice. Do you have any idea what a crime that is? Without releasing the redacted report or its findings, you can't legally or ethically even schedule a disciplinary hearing. The public must be able to participate in the process your own administrative code mandates, and we can't participate without having the facts. You must allow us to hear Vice Mayor Bowen's story. Your actions going forward must be transparent, have procedural integrity, adhere to adopted law, and to equal treatment under that law. If you want to be a functioning council capable of leading San Leandro, you can't be a bunch of bullies who stomp on different voices. Vice Mayor Bowen has always said she's doing this to change the council's culture, which you have fashioned into an old boys club. Show us that you want to change the culture by following the rules of your own administrative code and release the redacted report. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker card is from Leo T. West.
When I read in the agenda for this item, and I've been left with a question, where's the beef? There are no facts mentioned. We have people here talking today, but we don't know the facts. Nobody talks about the facts. It seems that some people have written letters to the San Leandro Times, but there is no official San Leandro Times explanation of the issue here. What's it clear for a while is that Councilmember Simon plays the race card, Councilmember Aguilar plays the gay card, and Councilmember Bowen plays the feminist card. Meanwhile, Mayor Gonzalez issued proclamation and recognitions to these same groups. All of this soap opera is of no interest for the working people of San Leandro. You can see here, nobody's coming here to hear the soap opera. So, but all of this is a smoke screen while millions of dollars in expenditures are being voted behind closed doors, well above revenue. All of the 3 council members, or perhaps 4, should be terminated and a new election to be called. We cannot allow 3 more years to continue with this city council. New elections now.
Thank you. Mayor, those are the only cards we've received in the room. One more from the floor. Mr. McGuire.
Yeah. Hi, Mike McGuire. I sincerely hope San Leandro can return to a time when we settled our differences by election and civil discussion, and not by lawsuits, recalls, and cancellations. Did I leave out lawsuits? No, lawsuits, yeah. I would love to see that report. One thing I have learned working in large organizations is that employees who have displeased someone are often brought up on vague charges. People who've done terrible things are allowed to keep doing them. We kind of need to see the facts, and we need to see the specifics, and I don't think we have in that, and I would very much like to. I'd also point out that while I understand Ms. Bowen has had a truly terrible introduction to public service in her first year, to the point of having to file criminal charges in another jurisdiction, and she has my great sympathy for that, that I have been treated worse on previous jobs than she has been treated, at least publicly, on this one. So I would like to see what has gone on. I do not incidentally include the San Leandro Times in that. I would like to see what went on privately, and we would need to see the report. But so far, I've seen some rude behavior in public, and that's what I've seen. Anyway, I hope we resolve this without any more fireworks than we've already had. And I think there's probably some way to take people to the woodshed, so to speak, and tell them, cut it out, don't do this anymore, okay? And I don't think you need to fire people for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, that's our last card. There are 7 hands raised on Zoom.
Let us close public comment in person, and let's open it up online.
The first speaker is Douglas Spalding.
Round and round and round we go. And boy, is it frustrating. I share your frustration, Councilwoman Bowen. It is rather like Groundhog Day, just not as much fun. It's beyond me why the report has not been released. Clearly, there's a general call for it. There's a need for it. We have this folly of you sitting there for a deliberation about the elephant in the room, but you can't really describe it because you can't use the word elephants, tusk, trunk, the word gray, anything like that. I believe that Councilwoman Bowen has experienced sexism, discrimination, misogyny, I don't know what items A through D are. I'm sorry, I don't have the handbook sitting in front of me, but what should the consequence be? It's kind of hard to know without having the details. So again, I call on you, council members, to release the report. And I know there are a couple of yes votes. I believe Councilwoman Bowen herself indicated she'd like to have it released. Councilmember Simon stated he would like to have it in unredacted form. I think there was a third member. So who's going to be the fourth member? Step up and make it so. And finally, this has been such a huge time and energy suck. And it continues to be. And I do want to appreciate, Councilwoman Bowen, your sensitivity to the agenda coming up. Housing protections is a very important issue, and I appreciate you honoring that on the next agenda for December 15th. So I guess we'll see what happens. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker is Deborah Acosta.
Good evening, Mayor Gonzalez, Vice Mayor Bowen, and council members. My name is Deborah Acosta with the League of San Leandro Voters. At the November 3rd meeting, Councilmember Simon described the accountability process as a public lynching, and then, astonishingly, demanded that the city reverse his prior censure and issue him an apology. That behavior alone shows why transparency is essential. Bullying, this type of behavior, is misconduct. Your own handbook requires respect among council members, staff, and the public. The administrative code requires that discipline discussions occur in an open, noticed meeting with facts available to the public. But the facts remain hidden. On November 3rd, this council voted 4-2 to return with a public vote on waiving privilege and to release a redacted full report. That item disappeared. And without waiving privilege, there is no factual basis that this public can see. You cannot legally conduct a discipline process under 1.13.115 without the underlying facts in the public record. Scheduling a date without releasing the information is not compliance, it is delay. If portions of the report require interpretation, then transparency is even more essential. Let the public see the findings, not just the spin. Tonight, the community asks for 3 actions. Agendize a public discussion and public vote on waiving privilege, leading to release of the report with appropriate redactions. 2, ensure Vice Mayor Bowen is present for any action involving her own complaint. 3, create a public portal where emailed comments on agenda items are published. We are not asking for removals. We are asking the council to follow its own laws and restore public trust. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rob Rich.
Yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Vice Mayor, and each and every council member. There is an internal complaint requesting discipline against some members of this council. Of course, an important element of leadership is how you handle mistakes. When faced with a difficult situation involving issues like those raised in this complaint, I think a good approach might be to first ask yourself, what wouldn't MAGA do? Well, they certainly wouldn't listen openly and honestly. MAGA wouldn't consider the possibility of having unconsciously internalized a bit of our culture's misogyny. That would be too woke. And they wouldn't acknowledge that they might have unintentionally created any type of harm. In fact, they would claim to be the victim. So here's my suggestion to our council members, whom I respect, who are named in the complaint. Just do what MAGA wouldn't. Please, listen with empathy. Acknowledge that multiple women with similar complaints are probably onto something. Grab the opportunity to learn, be accountable, commit to doing better, and then, as quickly as possible, please get back to the hard work of governing, because we need you, and San Leandro deserves nothing less. The good news is, while it may not seem easy, you can totally do this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lucas.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my third comment this evening, Mayor and Council. As I said at the November 3rd meeting, justice delayed is justice denied. This complaint has been lingering and hovering over the council since very early in the beginning of this year. Council member had to make a formal request for this to be discussed. Clearly, there was delays, whether those delays were intentional, whether those delays were a result of a campaign to obfuscate, to delay, to cover things up. I don't know. I won't speculate. But last month, the council voted, and the council voted under the agenda item that was said, City Council consideration of Vice Mayor Bowen's request for discipline against Councilmember Fred Simon per San Leandro Administrative Code Section 113.115. Now, that is a very broad agenda item, right? City Council consideration of the request. If in the process of considering a request, the City Council can't take actions to take follow-up, decisions and schedule things and release documents, what's the point of the consideration? We're just talking? What's the point of talking if we can't take concrete steps to move the process forward? So now this redacted report that the council decided to vote to release to the public is again delayed, covered up, hidden from the public for another month, maybe another 2 months till January of next year. Who knows? As I said at the November meeting, release. I'm a little angry. Release the Simon files, release the Aguilar files, release the...
Thank you. Your time is up. The next speaker is Gwen Olson. Gwen, are you there? The next speaker is Melissa Wong.
Oh, hi. I've been trying to figure out my thoughts, but here I go. About the November 3rd meeting, I made comments about following the policy that was only updated the same day to the public online. I specifically pointed out the 4 options, the A through D that was now mentioned, that was short of censure. I don't know why the city allowed last month's discussion at all, because a regular citizen like me knew better. The problem is that it gave people time to fill up gaps, and that's so unfortunate. I would say that last month's meeting was very damaging because residents reacted based on their life experiences, and unfortunately they continue with their positions as each day goes by. I know we don't have many people in the audience or online, so I would like to think that I speak for a number of them who maybe don't know what to say. So I plead for the mayor and the council to remember what I said November, not last month, but last year. Maybe not council member Boat, who wasn't a council member yet, but I said that if anything happened inappropriately, we need to know why people did not say or do anything at the time of occurrence. I said that it last year. So a year later, if somebody did, we could have corrected the issue. And I said issue because I don't know what is being done that's inappropriate. So after a year, please, I think the city, the council, city council, and even the residents all need training because it appears we don't know what's going on, and we are going to repeat, and we're going to talk about it next November too. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Laura Blumenthal.
Good evening. Laura Blumenthal, District 5. I'm also with the League of San Leandro Voters. I just wanted to thank the city attorney for outlining the ways that the council's process over the last month has gone afoul and has led to more delays. I think it was really helpful to hear that from, an official's mouth, and didn't require someone from the community to parrot back what the code for the city is. So thank you for sharing your knowledge. This has taken almost a year. I feel so terribly for everyone involved. I'm excited, we're just all tired. This needs to be released. I think everyone knows that the delays have caused more problems for everyone, not just those who are being investigated, but I think the entire city council. I hope this is a lesson to the council, that this is not how future, complaints should be handled. And I look forward to this actually completing, having the meeting about the waiver of client privilege, and having the meeting to determine, whether to release the report. I hope it is, regardless of whether it's redacted or not. We need to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Whitney Walker.
Hi, thank you. I was very relieved to hear your admission that the council messed up and that you are going to correct it. It is really frustrating that this is taking so long, most especially undoubtedly for Councilmember Bowen. But please know that this public is watching to see if the city council takes allegations of sexual harassment, bullying, and misconduct seriously. An investigation was conducted and the public deserves to know the results of that investigation. We're asking for transparency and we expect accountability from our city leaders. And I would echo the excellent advice that Rob Rich gave to Councilmember Simon and Aguilar. Please release the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, there are no more raised hands on Zoom.
So we'll close public comment and bring it back to chambers for discussion. Your motion, if you'd like. Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you. I do, before I make the motion, and I have to correct my motion because it was incomplete, and then I think I need to make two motions because the original discipline hearing had each council member separated out, and so I just want to be extra cautious of that. I've said this before since the beginning, and I'll continue to say it. When I finally filed an HR complaint in January of this year, January 6, 2025. It was because it had been almost 8 months of what felt like sometimes relentless misconduct that did not get course corrected despite efforts to call out or try to correct. In fact, the last interaction I had with Council Member Simon was to attempt to call out false statements, and I never received a statement. And so I have never filed an HR complaint before, and did so in order to stop the behavior from occurring. And so it's not been just 1 year, but it's been almost 2 years. I have only been on this council for 3 years. And I want to speak to why it is so important to be able to speak up, because two things continue to happen. One is that when people speak up in an effort to be able to share their experience and what is happening to them, I will speak for myself. When I have done so, it has been incredibly difficult to do so, not only because I have to try to convince the council that misconduct is occurring, but that the misconduct in general is a misconduct, that we do not lie about one another, do we not bully, that we do not retaliate, that we do not participate in misogyny and discrimination. Those things across any organization that I've ever been a part of, any professional development book that I've read, any organizational, best practice does not occur. And the fact that as a public entity, we've had to spend so much time saying, this is what our code of ethics is, this is behavior that is becoming of a public official or not, is incredibly frustrating. And the second piece of that is to be questioned about my experience in a way that is very public and incredibly vulnerable, but I am willing to do it because I want there to be a next person that sits up here that feels more supported, that does not feel discriminated against, that feels like they can speak up. And two things about that. On November 17th, I want to address something that Councilmember Simon shared that is terrible to hear. He said that a colleague previously had said something awfully offensive and racist to him. Those types of comments is exactly in trying to protect one another from that is exactly why I'm doing this, so that we don't have any type of discrimination and misconduct. I don't know who said those comments. I hope that if something like that occurred to you now or any of us now, by any of us, we would call it out. And that is the expectation. When I decided to run for city council, it was during the height of anti-Asian hate. San Leandro experienced 250% increase in anti-Asian hate. As someone who has organized and helped facilitated programmatic workshops, understanding implicit bias and racism, I've served on the City's Equity Committee, and I'm on the NLC Race Equity and Leadership Policy Committee. I want to make it very clear that I do not condone any racist or discriminatory comments, and that is the part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to be better. The second piece that I really want to acknowledge that has been really difficult, and I appreciate a public comment that mentioned it, but on numerous occasions since I spoke about this experience, public commenters or people in the public, and I believe some council members are trying to conflate another very difficult experience that I had. And I want to bring this up because at the same time that survivors of the Epstein and his accomplices' horrific exploitation and violence against countless women and girls, and at the very same time that the middle school here in our city is dealing with the fallout of disclosure of a sexual predator on staff, I really want to speak to the public and to every woman and girl and man that has ever reported or experienced any sort of sexual harassment and violence, that you should feel safe being able to report it, and you should feel supported to speak up, and no assault, harm, or violence is acceptable. One of the biggest reasons why I was hesitant to come forward to report the crime was because I knew that I would be put on trial. I knew that I would be questioned. And that is not okay. And again, I'm doing this so that the next person realizes that they are not alone, because I have felt that support from the community. There's not been one woman who has not come up to me, and even men that have not come up to me and shared their experiences. Nationwide, 81% of women and 43% of men have reported some sort of sexual harassment or assault in their lifetime. So this is not something to be taken lightly. I do not, and I'm asking for any member of this council to please try your best to not use a terrible experience that I had to try to deflect or conflate what I am trying to do here with this disciplinary hearing. And so the two motions that I would like to make is to, again, for the purpose of being able to change behavior, direction to correct, direction to attend training. I do not want this. I want this to be restorative. I do not want this to be punitive. If I don't want to take away a council member's ability to be able to advocate for their community, I am just simply asking for council members to treat one another with respect and follow our own city policy. So that being said, I would like to move to hold the disciplinary hearing on the first Monday or the third Monday of January. I'm not, maybe we could, the first meeting is fine. I do really just want to be able to get this over with, and include disciplinary up to censure, because we do not, to the public's point, we have seen now or have been given access to the report. And knowing the findings of the report, I want us to be able to have a discussion about the facts of the report and what was or was not sustained, and be able to make appropriate take appropriate action to ensure that the behavior does not continue again. And I would like to do that in two separate motions, once for Councilmember Aguilar and once for Councilmember Simon.
Okay, so let's take them one at a time. So the first motion is to hold a disciplinary hearing on January 5th, 2026. Is that correct?
If that's the first,
I'm representing that is the first Monday of January. I'm confirming that we're not pushing that for any reason to the Tuesday. Is that correct, City Manager?
That's correct.
Okay, so having received that confirmation, so am I seeing hesitancy and you'd like to pivot on the date?
I want to make sure that the council is present for it. I don't know what if there are absences that are, I don't want to disclude a council member inadvertently.
So we'll make the motion and then council members can offer their questions, comments, et cetera. So the first motion, again, I just want to be really tight here. You've made a motion that we hold a disciplinary hearing for Councilmember Aguilar with respect to the facts that were found by the investigation report of October 31st, 2025.
Yes, up to censure.
So under 1.13115, short of censure, correct? No, you're including censure?
Yes, the conversation to be able to,
Censure as well.
yes, if we find that to be the case.
So all discipline is on, hold a disciplinary hearing on January 5th, 2026 for all possible discipline.
Yes, to
Thank you.
include, yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Vitas Walton.
If it includes censure, then doesn't that trigger, it triggers the release of the report?
So I'm going to go to City Attorney for that.
So in order to trigger the censure, there should be some facts that form the basis for entering into the censure hearing. And if that includes an investigation report, then there needs to be a separate action agendized to waive the attorney-client privilege on the report. So for example, if you go on December 5th and say we'd like to move toward censure and we want to rely on the investigation report, then we'd have to have a separate action and we would agendize it for January 5th to potentially waive the investigation report privilege. That would start the clock because the censure would not immediately happen on January 5th. It would trigger the timelines in the policy regarding moving forward with censure, which might occur at a later date. It could be, if the council approved that, then we would move forward with a different timeline, and it would apply to that council member.
Okay, I think there's a request for a clarification from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need clarification on what the city attorney has shared, and I'm looking at the discipline policy right now, and the discipline policy states that the evidence that will be used in discussing whether there's a up to censure has to be provided. But if the vice mayor is requesting that discipline hearing be on the 5th, that gives us plenty of time to have the discussion next. I'm not asking for this, but gives time to have the discussion of waiving privilege at the next meeting for that to be released and available in time for January 5th, if that is what the council chooses.
Is that correct?
There are 21 days between the 15th and the 5th.
That is correct. So I just want to make sure we're clear that if we're moving forward with censure, if the council decides the manner for censure hearing, it shall schedule the hearing no sooner than 2 weeks after its determination to hear the matter.
So what I'm hearing, I just want to make sure I interpret what you say correctly. So if we were to say that we want to do a censure hearing, then we need to do that within 2 weeks. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Please point to the item, the text you're referring to.
Section 1.13.120. It shall schedule the hearing no sooner than 2 weeks after its determination to hear the matter.
So if there were to be a waiver on the 15th, then January 5th would be compliant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor, but I'm going to go to Councilmember Bolt. Please proceed.
Well, I still have time.
Were more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, please proceed with your questions.
If we are going to include a possible, for all of the discipline, all of the options up to and including censure, I would like it to be on January 20th because of the holiday, and to allow us time to that would be my request. If we are going to include censure, to extend the timeline and schedule the disciplinary hearing on the 20th. I don't know if that is amenable. Do I have to second to start the discussion on this?
No, right now we're discussing. But are you suggesting a friendly amendment?
I don't know if I can amend it if there's no second.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Do I need to second it so that we can actually discuss it?
Let's go. Would you like to second it?
Yeah, so I'll second it just for the sake of discussion.
Okay. Councilmember Bolt.
Yes. This is a change because we talked and we said it wasn't going to be we were going to remove censure, so it's back on the table. Now, if we vote for that today to proceed, we will have to have a hearing that says release the report prior to the disciplinary action. If that fails and we don't release the report, where are we then? Because if we don't release the report, we can't do the censure, and that's what I thought I was hearing before tonight. So that's a question to whoever wants to take it.
So let's start with city attorney.
That is correct. If you wanted to move forward with a censure, it would implicate potential due process considerations. In the censure, the council would decide that we're going to remove privileges from the disciplined council members, and that triggers due process. What is included in that is what is the basis then for the removal of those privileges. And that was where the report would be the basis for that due process.
And in my head, I'm wrestling with that, and I want to go back to the vice mayor on this issue, because before we were saying, let's move forward with the disciplinary action minus censure.
Through the chair.
I'm sorry, to the chair, to vice mayor, or however. And so my question is to vice mayor, not to the chair, but to vice mayor. If you're willing to answer, and I'll accept if you're not. If we go down this path and we don't, we're just going to prolong anything. And I'm okay with either one of the answers. I just want to hear and make sure we all understand this.
If you'd like to answer, you may.
Sure. Again, when we had this initial discussion on November 3rd, the motion was to schedule a vote to release the investigative findings so that we could use the facts in it. And that was before I even knew what was in the report in terms of the findings, to be able to go forward with the disciplinary hearing. So that was already going to be step one. Step two was then to have it. And what I wanted to be able to do is exactly what we have in A and B, which is a direction to correct, direction to attend training, direction to be able to change behavior. And that is not included in the first part of the potential discipline. And so the act of censure is to be able to, as if we choose that path, again, it's still a censure hearing. So if the council says that the behavior based on the facts of the independent investigative report that has been authorized and paid for by the council and the city, that it amounts to a violation of policy and misconduct, then censure is the one thing that we can do as a council to say we believe this behavior is not okay and we want to correct it. And so that is why I want to be able to do that. And in terms of enforcement, I would love to be able to trust somebody's word. And the reality is that I cannot, after experiencing what I've experienced and continue to experience, it is difficult for me to say, based on somebody's word, that yes, I will do something. I need there to be some sort of accountability. I don't want to take anybody's budget away. I don't want to take somebody's ability to get their work done away. What I want is for us to do better.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera-Walton, please.
Thank you. So just as a seconder of the motion, I would, if we are going to include the possibility of all actions, and we might at the hearing, even if we agendize it as a censure, we could not censure, right? We can do any of the options. It just triggers a more elaborate noticing procedure.
Correct.
Okay. So if we are to include the whole menu of options for disciplinary actions, if it includes censure, I would like to propose to the maker of the motion to agendize it for the disciplinary hearing for individual Councilmember Simon and Councilmember Aguilar on January 20th, on Tuesday, January 20th. Is that?
I just want to make sure. Yes.
Okay.
Because I know the Monday was a holiday, so I just wanted to triple check.
Yeah, Monday is a holiday. It's the
Okay.
a Dr. King holiday.
So we have an amended motion, if I'm understanding what's happening here. I'm just going to get verbal confirmation. We have a motion that will consider, to hold a disciplinary hearing. That hearing, we will consider all discipline options available to us. That hearing will happen on Tuesday, January
20th.
I just want to confirm by looking at my own calendar. Well, this is my double check control. So Tuesday, January 20th. And that is your motion, Councilmember Bowen.
Correct.
And that is you are seconding that motion, Councilmember Rivera-Walton. Perfect. So now let's go on to further discussion. Councilmember Simon.
Yes, I just have a question or comment about training. And I do believe training is valuable. I think we can all benefit from training. And like I forgot what it's called, but our council workshop, we have a trainer, not on the exact topics, but is it feasible to set a training session specific for the council on similar matters that we're talking about that we would all attend, like a regular meeting or a special meeting, I guess I would call it? Is that, I mean, I guess there's concern that people won't show up and won't go to training, but I guess I'm asking the question to either the city or to the chair, to one of the staff members. Could we have a special meeting with training?
So I'll go to city manager on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Simon. The question of can you? Yes, I can put on the agenda any training that I'm directed to.
Other questions or comments on this item? Okay, so then I will just offer my thoughts. I continue to be concerned about the waiver of attorney-client privilege at this time. And I don't want to go into legal advice that we have received and how, I mean, those are closed session deliberations. My understanding that censure was not on the table. And so I won't belabor the point, but I am concerned about the disclosure of attorney-client privilege at this time. Seeing no other hands, please vote.
All votes are in. And the motion carries 4 yeses and 3 nos. Yeses being Vice Mayor Bowen, Mayor Gonzalez, Councilmember Bolt, Councilmember Rivera-Walton, and 3 nos, Councilmember Simon, Aguilar, and Azevedo.
Okay, so I understand, City Manager, that you'd like a little bit of clarification, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now that we have the vote passing to hold the disciplinary hearing, including censure, on January 20th, I'd like direction on a date to schedule the waiver of privilege for the information that will be provided for the censure hearing.
So before doing that, so don't let me forget, before doing that, I need to poll my council members because I interpreted the motion as applying to both council members Aguilar and Simon, but I'm not positive that those words were used by me when I restated the motion. So is it the understanding of council members, and I'm going to need a verbal yes, is it your understanding that the motion that you were voting on involved both council member Simon and Aguilar? Please punch in and we'll go one by one. Vice Mayor, was that your understanding? Yes. Okay, Councilmember Bolt.
I'm sorry, it wasn't a phone. You have to say it again.
Yeah, yes.
So I have a yes from Vice Mayor. Councilmember Bolt.
Yes.
I have a yes from Bolt. Councilmember Rivera-Walton.
Yes.
And that was my understanding as mayor as well. Councilmember Aguilar.
No.
Okay, any others?
Yes, I believed it was for both of them.
Okay. Councilmember Simon, did you want to weigh in on this?
That wasn't clear, nor was the release of the report in what version.
So at this time, there is nothing about the report that's been determined. So I think that we will get to that in a second. So given the facts as you have them, City Attorney, do we need to revote?
No, we have direction. The motion was clear that it was applicable to both Councilmember Aguilar and Councilmember Simon. Majority passed.
Thank you. So now coming back to you, City Manager, thank you for your patience. You seek clarification. Please elaborate on the clarification again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote being that the disciplinary hearing up to censure being held on January 20th would need to have evidence provided before the hearing. And that evidence could be the report. I need direction from the council on when to place the waiver of privilege, if it's the report or some other documentation, on the agenda sometime between now and January 5th.
We will begin with Councilmember Rivera-Walton.
It can't be the 15th? Oh, okay. I would like to make a motion to agendize that for the 15th. I'm sorry. I have the wrong calendar date here. On Monday, January 12th.
Oh,
that needs to be earlier. Is that enough time?
Why?
2 weeks before the censure hearing.
It's Monday the 15th.
Monday the 5th? Are you saying this December 15th? I think.
No. I did not mean December 15th. I want it, so if the disciplinary hearing is scheduled, was voted on by the council to be scheduled on the 20th. You said the 12th is too late? We can't do it on the 12th?
No.
That is correct. If you wanted to hold a censure hearing, which you've left that option for the 20th, then the 5th would be appropriate, or the 15th of this month also.
Okay. Then I would like to push it as much as possible. So the 5th is the latest? Yes. January 5th.
Second.
So I've got a motion by Councilmember Viotis Walton with a second from Councilmember Bolt to schedule a meeting to discuss the waiver of attorney-client privilege on the January 5th correction. I've got a motion from Councilmember Viotis Walton with a second from Councilmember Bolt to schedule a discussion of the waiver of the attorney-client privilege on the October 31st, 2025 report on January 5th. Councilmember Viotis Walton. Sorry, thank you.
I do want to clarify that I would like the version of it to be redacted.
So it would be to discuss the release of a redacted version of the report. And to be clear, are you asking that staff prepare the suggested redaction before that date? Okay. And so that's, I'm getting the yes, and Councilmember Bolt coming to you.
If we're going to put that as a stipulation as redacted, I do not second that. I want it unredacted. I want the full report out there. So if we're going to say right now it's redacted or not, then I won't second that motion.
Please proceed.
We can discuss it on the 5th.
Okay, so just to make sure that our record is perfectly clear, we've got a motion from Councilmember Viotis Walton, seconded by Councilmember Bolt, that we schedule a hearing, an agenda item on the 5th of January, Monday, to discuss the potential waiver of the attorney-client privilege of the October 31st, 2025 report regarding the concerns raised by Vice Mayor Bowen.
Mayor, point of information.
Certainly.
It keeps saying discuss. In order for the January 20th to be good as a date for the disciplinary hearing, I would recommend possible action as included in that motion. Discussion and possible action.
I'm assuming yes from the seconder and from the maker, and from the seconder, yes. So we're agendizing an action item, but I do not want to be presumptive that the action will be to waive, but just that that's what's being considered on that date. Thank you for the clarification. Vice Mayor, please.
This is the city attorney. We just took a vote to have the disciplinary hearing up until censure, and one of the requirements of doing so is to have the information released. And so is the vote, the action item on January 5th, it is a necessary step towards it, but it is already required as part of a censure hearing, correct?
It is possible, I suppose, that in a censure hearing, there could be another basis, and the council would have to decide what other basis to establish that the facts for the censure. You already have a report that exists. If the attorney-client privilege is not waived on that report, it would have to be independent, another different basis for the council to rely upon in order for the censure to proceed.
We would have to, the council would have to find another independent investigation to rely on, other than the one the city already has in possession.
No, that's one option, certainly one option. I would have to put another independent basis or another basis of facts, or what would you establish as the facts?
Got it, okay.
And council could certainly take notice that these are the facts that we're going to rely on related to censure. You already have something. The council could, of course, take a separate action to rely on something else.
So just to clarify, we might have individually have personal experience that we've experienced, let's say, as a body, independent of whatever the report says.
That is possible.
Okay.
I just want to confirm that in the disciplinary hearing notice that I submitted to the city and in subsequent hearings and in my statements earlier, I am basing it on the experiences that I reported in the HR complaint that was subsequently investigated, and I am basing and spoke to using the findings from this specific already completed investigative report for the purpose of the censure hearing.
That is clear.
Okay.
One other question is from a process perspective. Councilmember Simon earlier asked about items A through D, and you said that we could do other things as well. And I just want to be really clear. We could, if I'm understanding you correctly, we could ask for training as something short of censure. That's first a yes or no question. We could ask for training.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so at this point in time, we have a motion and a second. I don't see any other hands raised, so let's vote on scheduling a discussion and potential action of the waiver of attorney-client privilege on Monday, January 5th, 2026, with respect to the October 31st, 2025 report.
All votes are in, and the motion carries with 5 yeses and 2 nos.
Okay, at this point in time, do you need any additional clarification? Okay, perfect. So at this point in time, we are going to move towards adjournment. I've got my green tie on because Stephen Cassidy was of Irish descent, and he took a lot of pride in that descent. I considered Stephen Cassidy a friend, a mentor, a guide. But in terms of why I want to close this meeting in his honor, has nothing to do with me personally, but the tremendous work that he did for the city of San Leandro, the community and its residents. His work will be felt literally for generations. The amount of time and effort that Stephen put in as a private regular citizen to help improve funding for the schools here in San Leandro. I mean, to the tune of $500 million. the amount of time and effort that he put into the public-private partnership known as Lit San Leandro, his dedication to the arts, standing at that very lectern talking to us about 1% for the arts. And he's done that for a long time. The Truth is Beauty statue, an iconic statue for the city of San Leandro, is directly the result of his advocacy and making sure that art is present in San Leandro. Revenue measures for the city itself. Measure VV. Think about where we would be from a budgetary perspective without the passage of Measure VV. At a very human level, he cared deeply about residents. He cared very deeply about the success of this city. He wanted to attract more and more companies to our city and wanted to make sure that the students that graduated from our schools could work at those companies. I am very grateful to have known him. I've heard nothing but positive things from diverse elected officials, individuals in the city. I can't believe that Stephen Cassidy has passed away. It is such a tragedy, such a loss. The people from Newark, he was working down there on their Chamber of Commerce, said that he had just revitalized their Chamber of Commerce in the limited time that he had been there. For all that he has contributed, not just in our city, but throughout the greater East Bay, I'd like to take just a moment of silence in gratitude. And for those of you that didn't hear, we have lowered our flags to half staff for 1 week in recognition and in honor of all that he did for our city. It is 8:56, and in honor of Stephen Cassidy, we are adjourned.